For anyone listening, choose your target. The target's going to be always moving. And unless you figure out a different purpose other than that moving money target, it's a dark road. Just have to learn and lean into your why.
Welcome to the Measure Success podcast, where we feature top leaders on how they measure success in their business and life. Now, let's learn from their experiences.
Carl J. Cox here, host of the Measure Success podcast, where I talk with top leaders about effective strategies that inspire success. And this episode is brought to you by 40 Strategy. 40 Strategy is built to make strategy work for small to medium-sized businesses and organizations by helping them grow by designing world-class strategic plans, and then more importantly, just keeping them accountable to actually get it done. To learn more, go to 40strategy.com. Also encourage you to go out and read a story about it, which is called Lost at CEO, An Entrepreneur's Guide to Strategy. You can pick that up on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and Audible as well. Well, first of all, I also like to thank Storypreneur Agency for recommending this guest. We have often, most of our guests today come from agencies who are bringing great guests to us. We're excited to bring to our show Michaelangelo Gerardi. He has scaled his business to over $1 million in revenue without paid ads and has helped over 100 online coaches achieve six-figure incomes in just 6 months or less without doing paid ads with his content to cash method. Now, before we get started and introduce you, Michaelangelo, I want to just say this is really important for you listening. I typically wouldn't bring on somebody who does fitness. I get regularly people saying to me all the time, I need to be in better shape. And I'm not saying I don't, but that is just one person doing one thing. I am really curious about how people build their businesses. And that's what Michaelangelo has done. He's been able to take a really difficult business to be successful in, which is actually fitness. Most people you're going to help us out with that, do not make much money at all. But you found a way to not only make money for yourself, but help make money for others. And you're going well beyond that as well. So Michaelangelo, welcome to the Measure Success podcast.
Thanks for having me, Carl. I'm excited to spill the beans on the ins and outs of scaling a fitness business.
And speaking of Beantown, that is where we're both from. It's always good to have a fellow Boston native. So once again, welcome to the show. And we're hoping by this time this gets out that the Red Sox are doing well. And of course, we won't know for sure as time will tell at that point in time. But with that, let's go to its core. And I said I'm super curious about Michaelangelo. He is degreed. You've been able to learn, and you started out in physical therapy. Is that correct?
Yep. I started after I did undergrad, got my kinesiology degree, went into graduate school for physical therapy.
And so you got into that part, and what happened next when you actually went down that path of starting down physical therapy? What motivated you? What got you excited about that part of the business?
Yeah, so I had an injury when I was younger, Tommy John surgery, speaking of baseball and the Red Sox. And that I had an amazing experience. Long story short, that's what brought me into hey, I want to be a physical therapist. So since I was 14 years old, I wanted to be a physical therapist. And I started my fitness coaching business right around COVID. And so right as I'm graduating undergrad, getting into physical therapy school, making a decent amount of money for a kid at that age, more than any physical therapist would make. So I'm going through clinicals, I'm going through coursework, studying rigorously. And come to my second year, I kind of started skipping classes because I had some, business stuff I had to take care of. And so I had to choose one day am I going to go down the physical therapy route and follow along of the 14-year-old dreams of opening a physical therapy clinic, or am I going to go all in on my online fitness coaching business? And I'm here today, so I think you know which I chose.
Now, what's interesting, right, with COVID, that really did change things, right? And was that a key catalyst of that ability to be able to actually work directly with people in person versus wearing masks, and the challenge around that? What was it about that in particular? I think it does make the most sense to head down this online coaching path.
What clicked in my head, so COVID was the catalyst in the sense of so I worked at a funeral home before, fun fact, and I basically shut the whole funeral home down because I got COVID. So I didn't have any other job coming in. So okay, I have to make this work. Fast forward there, I'm making good money. And once it just clicked, I was like, why am I going to go work 40 hours a week at a clinical for free for something I'm not super passionate about, and I'm making more money than everyone in there, and I'm impacting more lives, right? So that kind of clicked one day. And once I got over the fear of my mom and dad yelling at me for quitting, then I just kind of said, all right, enough's enough.
Yeah, that is it's so fascinating, right? Of all those different factors that could prevent us. One is what we're supposed to be doing, right? That you start out with that. You need from the aspect of this is what your degree is and this is what you're supposed to do. And then we have our belief of how we're supposed to support what our parents thought we should be doing. Like a lot of us have to overcome that. I'm kind of curious about that discussion you had with them. I mean, how was that? I mean, are they over it now? I mean, how long did it take for them to like overcome their concerns about you going off your own and trying it? Because they probably thought you were crazy.
Yeah. I'm thankful and blessed that my parents always let me do what I wanted to do, and they were just there to support me. But, there's obviously a little bit of concern. My dad owns a construction company. My mom doesn't understand the entrepreneurship side as much. And so she thinks safe job, work in a clinic, you're a doctor, safe, right? That's her thinking. And I get it. She wants just looking out for me. But, now the money I'm making now, the lives I'm impacting now, my mom's like, okay, she's cool with it now. So there was a little bit, are you sure? I'm worried, but ultimately, they let me do what I wanted to do, and now they're seeing why I did it.
Now, I'm actually looking on your website right now, gerardiperformance.com, and there's like legitimate multiple testimonials you have in there. And you actually have pictures where people have gone from a lot more to a lot less in weight, right? And there's many of us out there, right? US is one thing we don't have. We don't lack abundance is food and bad food, right? And lack of exercising habits. And so I'm just kind of curious about just that side real briefly. We're not going to talk about too much in the business, but how gratifying is that when you help somebody get to where they are? You have a lot of these 12-week efforts that you're doing. Tell us about that process and how does that change the people that you're working with?
Yeah, it's amazing, man. Not only do they change physically, but mentally as well. When you have to wake up, look at yourself in the mirror every day, if you're not proud of what you see, that takes a toll on pretty much every aspect of your life. So yeah, it's great. Get them healthy, get them off the metformin medication, get them feeling confident, but also they have more energy. They can go to work. They can play with their kids now when they come home from work. And, it's just an overall quality of life that's completely different and is enhanced with some guidance. And the real thing about me and my program is that I always focus on sustainability. So it's not keto, it's not intermittent fasting, it's not anything like that, because where I get the joy, it's actually just happened 2 nights ago, is when a client comes to me or messages me 2 years after they've joined the program, is like, Mike, look at us. We're going on a beach and vacation in Mexico, or, something like that. And they're still have the results that when they left me, if not better. So it's the long term of like, hey, I'm always going to be in that person's head, and in a good way, that I'm the one that changed their life. So that's what keeps me going.
We're going to dive just a bit longer because I'm curious. You said, hey, we aren't doing this with keto. We're not doing this with Medicaid. Once again, I see these things here. Multiple people have lost 10, 20, 30 pounds or more. What are the key things that you're helping them? Is it the accountability? Is it the program itself? What do you think are the key differentiators that's actually getting things to work? And the reason why I ask this, in strategic planning, you can always have a great plan, but if you don't have an execution plan, it won't happen, right? So what things are you doing to help maintain that consistency so they do actually change their habits and start working to something new?
Yeah. So a couple things there. One, if you have skin in the game, you make an investment, you're going to try a little bit harder, right? So that just gets a fire lit under their butt a little bit. And when you have someone barking up your tree when you don't do the right things, that's another little, motivation. But motivation and accountability aside, all the information that I teach my students, they can go and find on YouTube for free. But what happens is they lack the implementation into their lifestyle. And so everyone knows eat more protein, probably need a little less carbs, exercise. But how do you do this when you're a single mom with 3 kids and 2 jobs? And I think that's the biggest thing, that people lack the implementation piece of all this information that's on Google, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, because it can get overwhelming. And so they need someone to tunnel vision, light at the end of the tunnel, monitor what they're doing, and get them to where they want to be without any noise.
I love that. And then you hit something that's so important here. It's even the stuff we teach. Most of it is freely available. The challenge is getting it done. And so I love it how, you recognize, and it is the challenge for a lot of us. It's, yeah, this is great. I read this book. Yeah, it's great. I saw this YouTube video, but exactly how do you deal with everybody's personal challenges or business challenges that they have to accomplish their specific goals? And once again, I think that's why a big reason of having a coach is it's why I hire coaches for different aspects of our business. So let's go into this for you when you got started and you tried to scale. And once again, this is not easy. I get hit up, Michaelangelo, not daily anymore, because I think a lot of them decided to go out of business because they couldn't figure out how to make it work. But during that COVID period, there was a lot of people who moved online like you did, but you survived. You got through it. What were you doing to help yourself scale? And then how did you scale without doing ads, right? Because that's a common thing, expected almost thing that happens, right? Was I have to do Google ads, I have to do YouTube ads, I have to do Facebook ads to help grow towards it. What did you do, and why did it actually create traction, which was helping to bring clients to you?
I get asked this question, but truthfully, I don't think I did anything special. Like you have to get clients good results. When you get clients good results, they refer you to people and they want to stay with you long term. So one, you have to get your clients results. But two, and I bet you can speak to this, entrepreneurship is very much, can you get up every time that you fall down? So the people that are still hanging out here after 5 years have gotten knocked on their butt a dozen times, but they didn't stop getting up. The people who aren't here stopped getting up, the going got tough, and so the reward wasn't worth the work that it took. Like I still very much can easily put in a 16-hour day, and I love every second of it, but you have to be cut from the cloth of entrepreneurship is what I say, because it's not easy. You have to put out fires, there's stress, and you have to bring in your own income. If you stop working or your system stop working, you don't make money. So it's not made for everyone. And it's shiny COVID. Oh, everyone's going online, workout program here, this, there, because people can't get into a gym. But when the going gets tough, the tough are the only people that stick around. So I think I provide a world-class service. I give everything that they need, the accountability, and I truly care if my students succeed. That's another thing. But I just keep getting up, because if you don't quit, you can't lose.
I think that's really interesting. I mean, what you're saying is, the fact is, even though you talk about without paid ads, the reality is you're getting it through actual success. And then effectively you are sharing those testimonials, right, of people online. And then you're also getting referral business. So I'm curious, and I don't know how well you're measuring it or not, but how much business do you get through referral direct, like meaning people who went through your programs versus people who saw perhaps your stuff on a podcast or on YouTube or things of that nature?
Honestly, I wish my referral stuff was higher. Like back then it was new and it was sexy, and so I was getting a lot more referrals, but now it's kind of become mainstream. Like you said, there's millions of online coaches out there. So referrals, I'd probably say 5% of revenue a year, which isn't anything crazy, but it's something. Ultimately, what I get is more so people on the back end of retention that keep coming back afterwards. And then like you hinted to, without the paid ads. So if I can consistently go viral on Instagram and I have no capital that I ever need to put towards, paid ads, then ultimately all I have to do is keep posting content, and I had a never-ending flow of the billions of users on Instagram.
And so you nailed something there, of which I think is really important, is being consistent on your social channels, right? And so is Instagram, is that your number one where you typically are going towards? I noticed there's right down here YouTube that you have. Which of them, I'm kind of curious, creates the most interest, or is there other social channels you have, or is it a combination of them?
So it's Instagram and Facebook. I would say 80% Instagram, 20% Facebook in terms of new leads coming in. I have my hands in a couple buckets, but those are my two main ones, that I use.
Okay, so now you've got to a level, and we talked to this when we had our prep call, but you get to this level of success, right? And you've done a great job with it, right? Scaled over 7 figures. That is, not very many people get to that level. And now you're like, okay, I want to help. I want to do better than that. I want to help go beyond those things, because you have higher aspirations and goals, as we talked about once again prior to this podcast. So from that perspective, when did you decide to make that big change, right? It's a big change of just doing it for yourself, right? Your own business versus now I'm going to now have a coaching program on top of my core. So, when did you get that innovation, if you may, or ideation of like, maybe somebody else want to figure out how I've become successful? Is that how it kind of started happening? Or was it because you were like, no, I think I could actually help other people out and systematize it to help so they can do it on their own?
Well, it's always about helping the next person. So I know I love being in the service industry. So that's one. If I can make money from it, great. Where I think, okay, maybe I can help other coaches do this happened, almost selfishly, where I was like, hey, if I charge $3,000 for a fitness package and I can teach people to sell 10 of those, I can now charge $9,000 to teach someone how to do that, because people are going to pay to learn how to make more money. You can't charge as much. You don't get a direct ROI on your money with something like weight loss, right? So selfishly, I was like, hey, financially, I want to be in a better spot. I was, not that I was hurting, but there was more. And so I moved into business consulting, and Alex Hormozy, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this know who that is. I listened to his podcast, and he said something along the lines of, you may be doing all the right things, but you may be in the wrong vehicle. So that's when that day it clicked. I was like, okay, I have the process down. I know how to coach people. I know how to get people results. I'm really good at what I do myself. I just need to change my vehicle. So like I said, if I can do the same exact process, Carl, of lead generation, DMs, sales calls, and client results, but do it and charge 3 times the amount, well, now I'm in a vehicle that's going to bring me to where I want to be financially and professionally.
So you got that going, you got to start it up. And what surprised you the most when you started going down that path?
I think I thought it was going to be easy. So for me, it was easy. I was like, okay, if I go to someone, they tell me it's this much money, no matter how much money I have, and they guarantee me, I'm going to make it back. I was like, oh, this is going to be a breeze to sell. It's no easier to sell than selling a fitness program, because people now have their beliefs, and there's a lot of gurus out there and people who scam. And so it's just as hard. I think that was my most like, oh crap, it's not that easy. I thought I was going to go in here and it's just going to sell off the hinges, but it's just as hard selling this as it was fitness.
Yeah, and you just hit on I'm glad you said what you said there, because it's typically true. A lot of times we think, oh, I'm just going to go, and the terminology sometimes uses strategies an adjacent pond. Oh, I know this, and so I'm just going to go to the very next thing, which is going from doing it myself to teaching it towards others. But the reality is that's a whole different skill. It's a whole nother recruitment. It's a whole nother path, right, to get towards people to that piece of it. So once again, on that curiosity side, obviously you're on a podcast today. There's one of the things, how much, when you go out there and you continue this tail, if you may, of content, right? That's continuing to get out there, and then you have more and more that's built up. Do people find you once again through, if you may, SEO? They're going through that, or does it keep on going back to it's kind of primarily Instagram, and Facebook, where you're now finding the opportunity to help coach and get people to come on to be a part of your program?
Well, that's the downside of Instagram. It's not evergreen like YouTube, right? So you have people that made videos 10 years ago that they're still making money from on YouTube because it's more like a search engine. Instagram is more so short term, where you can get a video that has 2 million views today, but in 2 years, it's basically dead. So you have to keep on doing it and bringing in people and providing value, which is why I get the whole thing about YouTube long form content. Truthfully, I've just been lazy about going into that route, because what I have going, I'm fine with right now. But if I were to redo everything, I'd probably prioritize YouTube first and then Instagram.
Interesting. That's super interesting around that. Once again, you've done this, and I keep on going back to the ad side. I'm kind of curious, why did you ever decide not to do it?
I did try the ads, and I've blown over 15 grand on ads, which isn't a lot, like in the grand scheme of things. But 15 grand is still 15 grand, and I have had zero success with it. So I have nothing against ads. It's just that, one, you have to have upfront capital and be prepared to burn money. And two, all ads do is bring eyeballs to your page, product, service, whatever. If you don't have the right systems with ads, people say, well, the ads aren't working. Well, no, the ads are working. You're getting eyeballs, but your system to bring them into a customer isn't working. And so if I have a way to generate eyeballs for free that does the same thing as ads, but I don't have to spend money. Why on earth would I pay for ads?
And this is the part of the show of what Google does not want you to hear, right? Google does not want to hear if you don't do ads the right way, it's not going to necessarily bring you money. It might bring you more eyeballs, you just said, but if you don't have that lead conversion system, right, to bring people in, they're not going to come in and actually end up hiring, buying your services, doing the things that they can do with it. I'm kind of curious for you, when you have this, how do you turn that corner? How do you help them go from just being content to something where they're like, oh, I need to go click on that, right? I need to follow up and DM you. If you may, what tips and tricks have you learned has worked the best for you to get people to go to the next step?
Yeah, I'll give you my whole process in about a minute here. So we have post content. The content that you post, 6 to 7 seconds, use trending audio. This is for Instagram. The video does not matter. Don't make it completely irrelevant, but the video can be legitimately anything pretty much. Put captions on the screen, like text on the screen that's attention grabbing, and that makes the viewer want to go read more down below. So it may say something like, this one exercise got me shredded within 30 days, something crazy like that. Right? So I'm viewing that. I want abs. I'm like, holy moly, let's see what this is about. So the video is just that. The video is basically like a billboard to get the person to read down below. Now, that's primary hook. Now we have secondary hook, which is the first line before you have to open up the caption. If you go into Instagram and you're following along, you'd know what I mean. So it would be like, this is my exact strategy down below. And now you have to open up the caption. Now, mind you, as this is going on, the video is just looping up above because it's only 6 seconds. So it's getting replayed. And the algorithm will push out videos. That's the number one thing that the algorithm loves, is when someone rewatches your video. Why? Because they want you on Instagram, on the platform, as long as possible. So if this video is making this viewer stay on the platform, keep watching it, it's going to keep pushing it out. So that's the science behind it. Now, what gets them even further pushed out is when I have this big, super long, valuable caption explaining head to toe my whole process and everything. They're reading it and the video's still looping up there, which takes about a minute to read, right? So now they've watched this video maybe 10 times. They have super valuable caption that they just read with action steps on how to succeed on, getting these abs. And now the algorithm's going crazy and just keep pushing it out. So you provide value once you get the attention, and then the Instagram algorithm just does the same.
Brilliant. I love it. And what's so interesting here is you gave part of the secret right there, so to speak, in terms of how this works, how you get to it. And then ultimately there's an action, right, they have to take to connect with you. So at the bottom of all of that content, is there a call to action to DM you or to, what do you typically do?
I left that part out by accident. So you'll have your secondary hook. That's the first line of the caption. You'll have basically a paragraph of value, maybe 2 to 3 sentences. And then before you continue, I go, PS, if you want my guide, comment the word guide below. And then I'll do maybe 2 more bodies of value. And then at the bottom, I have the same exact thing. Comment the word guide if you want my free guide on how to get abs. So you hit the people at the top who aren't going to read it because they'll just stop right there. And then the people that just scroll to the bottom because they don't want to read it, you also hit them there. So you get the people who don't want to read at the top, who don't want to read at the bottom. And obviously the people who read the full thing is going to see it 2 times. So that's the call to action that you do.
And so then once you have them pulling down a guide, right? And is that hooking in at the end of the day to what's that next step? I'm kind of curious once you get the guide part, right? Because a lot of people give free content, but then it dies there. Like, so how do you get to that point where you're actually connecting with the client?
So I call it getting down in the DMs. So basically you just commented guide. I say, hey, Carl, just shot you the guide in your DM. Go check it out. So I'm going to ask some questions now. Hey, what are your goals? How long have you been struggling? Have you ever worked with a coach? What have you tried so far? I'm kind of digging deeper, ultimately to pitch you to get on a call, but also I'm dropping the guide in there like, hey, by the way, here's the guide. But basically it just opens up the conversation. So you kind of hear the yucky term cold DMs where you're kind of sending unsolicited messages to people. I'm sure you get those a lot. This way they're raising their hands. They're asking for your help. So there you go. And then there's your window of opportunity. And they're in the buying mindset or the I want help mindset.
Right, right. I love it. I love it how you've gone through, and I'm kind of curious for you, how long did that take to learn and to perfect that?
I've been posting every day since 2018. I haven't missed a beat. That being said, algorithm has changed a lot. So I would say within the last year, I've really narrowed it down. I remember it was like yesterday. It was just like one day, all of a sudden, I was just seeing these 6-second videos with just text on Instagram. Like, what is going on here? And then as you learn and research, and I call it training your explore page, this is what I'm noticing. Everything on the explore page is laid out like this. And so I put my own little spin on it because I'm selling something. And then that's the story.
Wow. It's awesome. I love, and once again, I hope this is, I mean this, we do a lot of shows, but you have given like rich, thoughtful content here that I know people are going to be able to take of like, wow, that, that's part, and that's once again what we want to do. And by the way, I'm going to tell you now, whether we keep this recorded or not, we have these 4-minute podcasts that we are getting ready to release. I'd love to have you on to talk about some of these ways to help attract and get clients and use social. So we'll talk about that offline. But I mean, once again, that's what we want. We want to give real practical advice, right, on how to do things. And there's the story, of course, behind it as well. So now today, I'm kind of curious, you have your business. How are you measuring success?
One, I measure my success on my client's success. So if my clients aren't doing well, I feel like I'm not successful. I can't sleep until they're doing well. So that's just inherently how I've always been with service. And I measure my own success by, can I do the things I want to do every day? Can I get on my bike at 2:00 in the afternoon, ride to the beach and have acai bowl on the beach? Can I book my parents a trip to Italy and not have to look at my bank account because of it? Can I treat my girlfriend to a great dinner for her birthday? All of these things that ultimately always lead back to service. Am I changing lives, and am I caring for my loved ones?
Those are two really good metrics. What's interesting there is you've really combined business and personal.
Absolutely. I think they go hand in hand. There's no really way around that.
It's not what everybody thinks, but you figured that out, I think is brilliant, because we are one, as much as we want to compartmentalize. And today, of course, it's not today, and it's not when you're listening to this, but we recorded 3 different podcasts today. And it was amazing. And every single one of them, they talked about the personal side and the impact they have on others is more important at the end of the day, of how we're providing. Now, as you know, you have to get by first, right? If you don't get your basic essentials, if you may Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you can't provide yourself food, you don't have yourself shelter, it's hard for you to start thinking bigger, right? But once you get past there, you recognize there is way more to it, and which is super exciting. So I'm curious about you now personally. What type of habits do you do on a consistent basis so you are performing your best?
I have my morning routine I've been pretty religious about. So I'll wake up. I will turn on my red light here. I'll do 3 rounds of Wim Hof breath work. I'll do my journaling. And then I kind of just put on my earbuds and close my eyes and envision myself where I want to be ultimately, right? I think we talked a bit about it last time. I have my house on a lake, house on a beach, family's thriving all together. And I'm listening to this calming music, kind of visualizing where I ultimately want to be and how I want to feel. And that kind of sets my tone for my day, gets me out of fight or flight, lowers my cortisol, and allows me to, remember why I'm doing what I'm doing every day when the going gets tough.
It's awesome. And then after you get that, so how long is that routine typically for you?
If I'm in a rush, I can get it done in 20 minutes. If I'm taking my time, 35 minutes.
And then from that point forward, do you then do a normal workout, like a more in-depth workout, or what is, here you are in the fitness routine? I'm kind of curious for you, somebody who's in the business, how much are you pushing yourself, your own physical body?
Yeah, so I get to the gym. It's crazy. I don't even consider that my morning routine, but I guess it is. I get to the gym every morning, 5 days a week now. I used to do 6, but at this point, I don't really think I don't need 6. So I go, I lift heavy weight, I get my sweat in, and then I head home. I used to just kind of try to squeeze it in whenever I could, but fortunately, as I've been able to dictate my own schedule as business has gotten better, then I just keep it in the morning. That's like my coffee. I don't really drink coffee. That's like my natural energy boost.
Yeah, love that, and a lot healthier, right? Than and one who has taken one too many tall non-fat caramel macchiatos in my life. I do know when I actually work out versus coffee, it has way more value around it, and so that's totally awesome. So longer term, you had some of that vision around that. Have you wrote that? I mean, it seems like you've got it so ingrained because you think about it every single day. Have you wrote it down as well? Have you created that, if you made that long-term vision for yourself?
Every morning for the last 2.5 years, I've written down the same exact thing in my journal.
Good for you. That it's a great habit. I'm curious, who did you pick that up from, that suggestion?
Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill.
Okay, well, so that is a great book recommendation. Is there another book that has been really transformational for you?
The Secret. I forget the author. Was it Bob Proctor? Was it? It might have been. But The Secret. I don't know if you've heard of it, but another popular one that was basically about manifestation, and that anything you want in life is right at your fingertips. You just have to put your mindset in that state.
Yeah, no, fantastic recommendation there for sure. So, Michaelangelo, how can people connect and learn more about you and what you're doing?
Best place to connect with me is on Instagram at @MichaelGerardi_. And then I have a gift for anyone that made it this long in the podcast. You just go to coach.gerardiperformance.com/podcast-gifts. Giving away my whole Viral Rails framework in depth that I explained here. And I have a little Facebook group strategy that I use for anyone listening as well.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And we will make sure that gets in the podcast show notes. So if somebody doesn't happen to listen to the entire podcast, which would be a mistake, but if they just haven't had to listen to it, we'll make sure that gets in there. Just kind of curious for you, anything, last things that you want to share that you didn't get an opportunity to share, that you're excited about what you're working on next?
One thing that, this podcast stood out to me on in our conversation before, kind of opening up a little bit here, very much battled with the moving target of the next amount of money per month. So I'm happy that we had that conversation before. We really didn't talk about it today, but for anyone listening, choose your target. The target's going to be always moving. And unless you figure out a different purpose other than that moving money target, it's a dark road. Just have to learn and lean into your why.
So since you went there, and I appreciate, because we did talk about that ahead of time, I appreciate you bringing that up. And part of this is an important thing for anybody who's out there as an entrepreneur, or perhaps you're even a CEO of a business, or maybe you're no matter where you're working, is that you get to a certain point and more doesn't matter anymore. Literally, it's just this endless point where things can unravel. Now, just to clarify, I'm a massive believer in doing what we are, being able to do the most that we can, the most that we're capable of our capabilities. And actually, I think in many cases, we can do more than we ever dream of. And that's why one of the reasons you dream of consistently about where you want to be in the future. But separating the difference of that, you're going to be happier at that spot. There has to be joy in the process of accomplishing towards that. Otherwise, it's going to be an empty goal at that new summit. And so I think that's, part of the opportunity and lesson for all of us is to recognize, to enjoy the journey, not just the outcome. Right. And to recognize, and when you do get those additional outcomes, do it for the right reasons internally, as well as for your bank account. And then it can be really, really valuable, really exciting, because the challenge, right, is what we don't want to do, because it does happen, is we burn ourselves out. You can only do so many 16-hour days in a row, and without getting completely burned out. This is not an uncommon thing for entrepreneurs. We think we're making a lot of money, but when you put in the number of hours per day, you're making somebody make as a McDonald's, store manager, right? And so you want to, and there's nothing against somebody who's working for McDonald's as a store manager, just to clarify. But the point is, it's amazing sometimes of what we're making and the hours we put in. Is it worth it? And to really consider that, the sacrifice and the time. But like you said earlier, when you do put in the sacrifice and time and you get that reward internally as externally, it could be really powerful. So Thank you. Thank you for bringing that. I'm glad in our original talk, you thought about that more. And I hope once again, other people are thinking about that well as you're trying to hit your bigger targets. Hit bigger targets, but do it with a purpose, and I'm kind of curious for you, as you said that, what else did you learn from that? I'm kind of, you intrigued me by what you said there. What are some things that you learned from it that you will do differently more in the future for yourself on that concept?
I think that was really my big takeaway. I left the call and I was like, man, that was a good call. I told my girlfriend, I was like, this and that, because it's always been, she calls me out on it. She's like, you just hit this target, and you're like, you're not even that excited and happy. I'm excited for like an hour, but then it's all right. Now I want this, and then it's just this moving thing that just is a revolving door, right? So I've felt a big difference since that call and changing my mindset, where like I'm not content, but I'm also not going to get frustrated and lose out on the beauty of an opportunity and the beautiful life I live because I'm not at the next target. So, just kind of more gratitude and thinking, hey, people would kill to make this much money and be able to have this much impact. So just, being grateful for where I'm at.
Thanks for adding to that. And yeah, it's a fascinating thing. The dopamine rush of success is like a drug. It can be a drug by itself, right? And so finding ways to, once again, to separate and not just to try to go for that next dopamine hit, but actually, once again, find ways to not slow the success, but once again, recognizing that you can enjoy the journey to get to there. And it can be super powerful. And to me, if you get to the point where you're sleeping at night and you're accomplishing a lot and you have loved people around you, that you could take care of, that's where real joy is, right? When you're getting through that part. And I'm not saying there's going to be periods where you're not going to wake up in the middle of the night going, I need to fix things, I need to do something different. But if you're waking up every day in stress, you got to stop, reflect, and change the way how you're trying to tackle things. And so, awesome. Thanks for adding that additional piece. And I think it's great wisdom. All right, well, we got where we could connect it with. Michaelangelo, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the Measure Success podcast today.
Likewise, man. Thanks, Carl.
Absolutely. And to everyone else who's listening, I encourage you to, once again, this is what he shared today is the real truth, what it takes to become a successful entrepreneur. And what I'm excited about him is he has a great, incredible future ahead. He's already had great success. He's going to accomplish his next things because of everything he's done, but he's also learning to enjoy the process along the way. And he gave even me great tips and ideas and contents that I hope you'll be able to take. And then with that, hey, make sure you rate the show. This is why we continue to grow and become one of the top business podcasts out there. And also, it's not just about business, it's about your own personal success. So as we like to say, wishing you the best at measuring your success. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Measure Success podcast. We'll see you again next time to learn from the best. Remember to subscribe now to get future episodes.